In today's show, we look back at the one game from Thursday, Dallas-Detroit, recap that, highlight the injury news, including some injuries in Atlanta, and I've got a couple of other little things we're going to talk about, waiver wire moves and a few other things as well. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_Beeble, on TikTok at redrock_Beeble, on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball, and on Substack, joshloyd48.substack.com. Today's show, it's brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. So, there's only the one game that's on. So we're going to go through all of the news. We're going to look at waiver wire stuff and a couple of other advanced stats things that I'm going to look at before we get into breaking down that game. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see. Michael Bolton.
Let's get it on, Gilly.
All right. Jarrett Allen's out again for Cleveland. Kevin Love is doubtful. I'm not really sure why they're just not ruling Love out for multiple weeks with a thumb fracture. That would be my expectation, but it's just not happening. With Allen out, we had Mamadi Diakite. So if you're in a really deep league, maybe we look at Diakite because he started the last game. And then there's Dean Wade that gets that little bit of a boost there. And maybe we get a little bit extra from Karis LeVert. Allen out does help Mobley with blocks, field goal percentage, and rebounds. So that helps there. In Orlando, bunch of guys out. Suggs out, Gary Harris out, AKK out, Wendell Carter out. Suggs, Harris, AKK is just for this game, or might be longer, but we only know that they're out for this game, while Carter is out for 1 to 2 weeks. All of these injuries, again, helps to prop Bol up and get his minutes still rolling, so the sell-high window still remains there. What we are going to see, though, with Suggs and Harris out is what they do with Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz. I imagine Fultz will start. Do they go with Terrence Ross as a starter? Do they go with Anthony and Fultz together? Do they, if Mo Bamba's available, does he start? And then we got Wagner, Banchero, and Bol as the 2, 3, 4. Lots of ways they can go. But the absence, again, of 4 rotation players here, and you could say that OKK is a borderline rotation player, but it's going to change a lot of things up for Fultz and Anthony and Bol and Mo Wagner and even guys like RJ Hampton, Kevon Harris, Admiral Schofield for those in deeper leagues, but a bunch of players out still in Orlando despite getting those 2 players back. The Carter one is really frustrating. We hope that in 2 weeks he's ready to go. I'm a little skeptical, but we are hopeful of that. And if Bamba does play, he does become a streamable option. The bigger ones here are the injuries in Atlanta. DeAndre Hunter with the hip flexor strain is out at least a week. Yeah, I'm always going to just push a little bit further than a week on that, maybe go 2 weeks there. While Johnny Collins is out at least 2 weeks with a sprained ankle. I talked about that when it happened yesterday. I said I think this is a 1 to 2 week injury for Collins. Well, it looks like a little bit worse than that, so it's at least 2 weeks. So we pushed 2.5 to 3 weeks there on John. It would be a really straightforward situation if we knew what Jalen Johnson's story was, because they would start Griffin, they would start Johnson, and Griffin would be a clear 12-team ad, and Jalen Johnson would be a solid 12-team option. Now, Griffin is a 12-team league ad. Like, with both of these guys out, is a clear ad. What I would watch for is Jalen Johnson with the uncertainty there. Probably is more 14-team. If he is out, Jalen Johnson, then Jarrett Culver becomes your ad. And I'll get this out of the way now. I don't think that Okongwu and Capella will play together. Will it help Okongwu maybe get an extra half a block or something? Because Collins was getting some good defensive stats, maybe, but I don't really think so. It's all going to come down to minutes to me. And it's going to be 29 to Capella, and then it's going to be 19 for Okongwu. Or 27 to Capella and 21 for Okongwu. Maybe they cross over for a minute. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. They might, but I don't think it's going to be gigantic enough where Okongwu is playing 25 a night and Capella's playing 30. I honestly don't think that'll be the case. We didn't see that last game. And you do have an opportunity for Jalen Johnson or Jarrett Culver to fill in some of those minutes. The other thing that confuses that is the potential return of Bogdanovic, who is questionable. Now, I think Bogdan's going to be on a minutes limit early on and will sit some back-to-backs. But he's got a chance to, I don't know if he would step in and start, but he's going to get lots more opportunity with Collins and Hunter out. if only he would if only he was at his 4 minutes. So this means, go and add Bogdan. Look, still don't think his upside's that high, but upside is boosted. Griffin's a 12-team ad. Jalen Johnson's a potential 12-team ad, and Jarrett Culver's like a 16-team to 14-team league ad. If you want to add a Kongwu because you disagree with me that they're going to share minutes, go ahead. I don't think it's a wrong move. A Kongwu's got at least a base level of value there. It's not like adding Vic Krejci, which I don't think you should do. A Kongwu's got a base level of value, and I didn't mention this. Capella's actually questionable, and it's not even through dental pain. He might not play. So yeah, sorry. Ignore all that stuff there about a Kongwu.
Dental plan.
Lisa needs braces.
Because Capella's questionable. So if Capella's out, a Kongwu's going to have a good opportunity. Now, we did struggle a little bit when old teeth man Capella was out. He didn't put up great numbers, but there's a big opportunity coming. So yeah, AJ Griffin, a Kongwu, who may not work out, Jalen Johnson, and then you go to Jarrett Culver for deeper leagues. They're probably the winners there. I know we heard about this yesterday, but it was after I recorded. So the Lakers waived Matt Ryan. This doesn't mean a trade isn't coming now, but the reasoning was given is so they can pursue trades after the December 15th cutoff that makes a lot more people eligible to be dealt. Does this mean that Buddy Hield and Miles Turner are coming to the Lakers? No. It might, but it doesn't tell you that. The reason he was waived now, apparently, is they're going on like a 10-day road trip, and if they were planning to waive him anyway, they just didn't think it was worth having the extra cost, with the Lakers it's always cost, of transporting someone around. It sounds like he's a cow. Of having him go with the team when he's just not in their plans, and they're going to cut him when they get back anyway. So they waived him now rather than take him on that road trip. That is the understanding I got from Eric Pincus, I think, tweeted that out, talking about why it was done now and not right at December 15th. It doesn't mean they've got something right in the hopper ready to go, but they weren't planning on using him. He was going to get cut, and they just did it before this like long road trip that they're on. So there you go. Some other injury news: Mike Conley's out, Chris Paul is out again, Brandon Ingram is out, Herb Jones is out. Actually, they're both doubtful, sorry. So yeah, as we talked about on the preview show earlier today, yeah, the value there of Trey Murphy, Dyson Daniels has really, really bumped with those two guys out. CJ McCollum is likely to return, but those two guys still out is interesting. Campaign we keep rolling with, Colin Sexton we keep rolling with, and the frustration is there. With the CP3 injury, we just don't know what's going on. The frustration's there with the Wendell Carter Jr. injury, where we were told it was nothing, and now it's at least 2 weeks. Like, it's annoying. Like, we wish we could get more accurate information, and teams like the Orlando Magic are shocking at it. Yeah, so Memphis, they're two of the worst teams in the NBA at giving accurate medical information. The Hawks, actually, are probably one of the better ones. So at least we got some strong information from them. Although their Bogdanovic updates haven't been particularly great. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all sports betting info, news, analysis, and stats. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. Basketball, football, the World Cup, other soccer, esports. It's all there at BetOnline.net. And if you, like me, are a believer in the future Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins, you can check out our odds for Week 13. Where the Dolphins are 4-point underdogs against the San Francisco 49ers. So if you believe in the Dolphins, if you want to fin up, they're 4-point underdogs. You can get some good odds over at betonline.net, which is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, so what I decided I was going to do here is I went through EPM. EPM, I think, is EPM, Raptor, LeBron, and Darko, I think, are the 4 best advanced stats. I really love what they do. EPM, it's on a website called Dunks and Threes. And you can check out, they have so much stuff. They rate everyone in percentiles. There's EPM, offensive and defensive, estimated wins, true shooting, rim percentage, mid-range shooting. It's a lot of different stats that they have on there. And EPM is a really good indication, I think, of just showing how effective a player is. It stands for estimated plus minus. And it just gives you an idea of like how good this player is using box score and tracking and on-off data, and ranks them, really. That's where we're at with them, or what that stat does. For example, the number one player according to EPM this season is Curry, followed by Doncic, followed by Jokic, followed by Tatum, Giannis, Durant, Embiid, Davis, Booker, and Shea. Pretty hard to argue with that top 10, is it? Like, that's a pretty strong top 10. Then you got Ja Morant, Donovan Mitchell, like pretty good top 12, yeah, of players with value. So I went through every team, and wanted to just highlight something that was intriguing to me. So let's look at it. You might not have liked this. You want to fast forward to the recap? By all means. I think there's something in here to at least stick into your head a little bit or keep in the back of your mind. The Atlanta Hawks. AJ Griffin is in the 65th percentile in the entire NBA. He's got the fifth best for AJ Griffin, EPM on his team. As a rookie. Better than Okongwu, better than Hunter, better than the Holidays. Yes, he's still behind Collins, Murray, Capella, and Young. But 65th percentile, basically a neutral, as a rookie, is massive. And we're going to get that opportunity to see him play. You know, I've been talking about, hey, I think he's good. I talked about in the draft. Why did he slide so far? Ridiculous. What are the Wizards doing? Picking bloody Johnny Davis over him. Like, it was crazy to me. I had him at 6 or 7, I think, in this draft. And so far, his play has shown that, yeah, he was probably a little bit underdrafted. And he's been useful. And now we get that opportunity to see it. In Boston, I was pretty surprised to see this.
Maximum Derek.
Derek White is in the 92nd percentile of EPM, and he is second on the team. Ahead of Jaylen Brown, ahead of Malcolm Brogdon, ahead of Marcus Smart, ahead of Al Horford. Not that those guys aren't having great seasons, but White is really impactful offensively and defensively with a low usage. 93rd percentile defensively. That's very interesting. Who knows how much they're using these sort of advanced numbers, but a lot of the things tie in. And the fact that White is in the 92nd percentile and Grant Williams is in the 42nd percentile maybe gives you an indication of why they switch back to that sort of situation with White starting over Williams. And I've been a little bit skeptical of White maintaining value. This was really eye-opening. In Brooklyn, nothing majorly stood out except at the bottom. I know people love Cam Thomas. I think he's actually really bad. And these numbers would suggest the same thing. 21st percentile overall in EPM, and that includes 17th percentile on offense. I just don't think he's a good and effective NBA player. He's got an effective field goal percentage, which accounts for the value of threes, not free throws though, just the value of threes. He's in the 2nd percentile for his shooting. That's abominable. Charlotte. Dennis Smith Jr. has the highest EPM on this team. He's in the 98th percentile defensively, 84th percentile overall. That's really good. Now, he's doing it on 16 usage, 28 minutes a night. And it's not through great shooting. Like, he's in the 27th percentile field goal percentage. He's 9th percentile mid-range. It's all defensive stuff, really. And offensively, he's a bit below average. Actually, no, he's right on average, 52nd percentile. Like, he's really good. But I just don't know where the minutes are going to be there. I've been pretty worried about where Zach LaVine is. He's still 82nd percentile. And I thought, okay, so maybe I am imagining it. Just something doesn't feel right with LaVine. But maybe I am just imagining that. See, second on the team behind DeRozan. Ahead of Vooch, ahead of Caruso, ahead of Williams, obviously. Desumu's way down that list. For Cleveland, Evan Mobley. Probably a little bit disappointing for him. 62nd percentile. That's like a negative 0.4, so a slight hit to a team. Not great. And he's 7th on the team, behind Dean Wade, Kevin Love, Karis LeVert even, and the big three of Mitchell, Garland, Allen. It's been a troubling season for him. I know the Mavericks are playing today, and this guy, we're talking about how well he's been playing. Well, Josh Green's the 3rd best player on the Mavericks according to these numbers. 75th percentile in the NBA, well ahead of Christian Wood, well ahead of Dorian Finney-Smith, well ahead of Tim Hardaway. Defensively, he's been excellent. His effective field goal percentage is 99th percentile, which probably falls off, but he has been amazingly good. Denver, the big stiffy Bones Highland has been bad. We know he's had high usage, but part of the reason, I guess, why some of his minutes have been low at times is how poorly he's played. 35th percentile. He's the 8th best on the team behind Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Maga Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, Vlatko Čančar. He's just marginally ahead of DeAndre Jordan. Most of it is because he just stinks defensively. Like, he's really bad. And we know that there were some real issues with him early on in the season in terms of Malone's minutes. And that, I guess, is why. Just sucking defensively and not being able to do anything. The Detroit Pistons. Killian Hayes, it's been good. Look, he's been improving. Absolutely no question about that. But still 20th percentile and last on the team. The opportunity's there for him, and I still think he probably can be a fantasy guy, but if you're using this as an indication to have significant belief in him moving forward, well, these advanced numbers would tell you that there's still massive struggles here for Hayes, who's in the 1st percentile for effective field goal percentage and finishing at 32% at the rim, which is just ludicrously horrible. It's horrible. It's the 0th percentile. That's actually horrible. John Kuminga, who had a really good game last time out, The numbers would suggest he's been terrible as well. 10th percentile, negative 4.7. That's really quite poor. Now, he is stepping up, and there is an opportunity here for him to stream on Friday, Saturday with a potentially bigger load if they do rest guys. And I want to watch where it goes, but so far, it's been bad. It's been better than Wiseman and Moody, but it has been bad. For the Rockets, did you know that Alperen Şengün has the highest EPM on this team by a significant margin? He's also in the 86th percentile overall in the NBA. He's at 1.8, Kevin Porter's at 0.3, and Jalen Green's at negative 0.6. Şengün is really, is he their best player? According to this, he is. And according to the impact on the team, he is. Is he their best prospect? Probably not. But he's been really good. Makes it even more frustrating of the early season benching nonsense that went on. I was surprised to see in Indiana that Jalen Smith, Sticks, was ranked as high as he was.
Stand by your man!
We know he's had some real ups and downs, and his shooting numbers are pretty poor. 51% field goal percentage is yuck. But he's 76th percentile overall in EPM. That's third on the team, behind Halliburton and Hield. He's ahead of Turner, ahead of Mathurin, ahead of Nembhard, ahead of Duarte, Neesmith. So I guess there's some... And defensively, he's got a really high ranking. So I guess if the shooting starts to come up, maybe we are seeing something with him. Maybe. I'm not sure, but maybe. That opened my eyes a little bit. We know Kawhi's been bad, but did you know that he's still in the 71st percentile in the NBA and third on the team? Okay, it's limited minutes. I just thought he was so much worse than that. And yeah, he's behind George and Zubats, but ahead of Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, Marcus Morris. Still impactful in those minutes. I want to highlight Kendrick Nunn because there's so much buzz about him last season, or how much they miss him, and so much buzz about him in the preseason. He's in the first percentile, negative 6.5. He's dreadful. He's the last on this team. He's really quite poor. And I know I shit on Dylan Brooks, but give the bloke props. He was really high in EPM last season, and he's doing it again. 89th percentile, third on this team behind Bane and Morant, who are crazily high as well. 97th and 93rd percentile for Bane and Morant. But Brooks does it just impacting things defensively continually. Offensively, he's graded about a neutral, which is actually a surprise to me. But as I said, he's upped his assist rate this season, and he has reduced some of the stupidity with his usage and shooting. But to see him that high, ahead of Jackson, ahead of Adams, it is surprising, for sure. In Miami, a lot of talk about Bam and how good he's been, and he has been improved of late. I was shocked to see that he's in the 42nd percentile defensively. So much talk of him being in the Defensive Player of the Year discussions. It's really hard to measure defense, obviously. But 42nd percentile, that's bad. Like that deserves a little bit more investigation, I think. In Milwaukee, Javon Carter's in the 84th percentile in the NBA. He's fourth on this team behind the big three. One of those big three, not including Chris Middleton, Lopez, Holiday, and Giannis. But the fact that Carter's given them these minutes, especially defensively, but not really hurting them offensively, shooting okay, apart from being horrendous at the rim, like mid-range shooting good, three-point shooting good. I wonder if he's able to maintain 25 minutes ahead of Grayson Allen. Now, the difference between him and Grayson Allen on this list is negligible. 1.5 to 1.4. So at least giving rotational minutes. I still think that Carter's going to be a 12-team drop, and probably is, but that was interesting to see. It's also really interesting to see how bad Rudy Gobert is ranking out in the defensive metrics. He's only a 0.1. Basically neutral defender. 68th percentile defensively. Offensively, he's neutral as well, so he's basically the most average player in the NBA. 68th percentile overall is a neutral player in this metric. And that's really not what they traded all those draft picks for. Trey Murphy. I really like Trey Murphy. I think he can be a good defender. His defensive metrics are grading out horribly. Not as bad as Valanciunas, who's in the 5th percentile there, but Trey's in the 16th. Now, offensively, he's really good, and he's like 59th percentile overall. That's still only, 7th on this team, behind Zion, Ingram, Nance, McCollum, Alvarado, Valanciunas, and then Murphy. But it's ahead of ahead of Herbert Jones, sorry. But yeah, defensively, some room to grow. Rowan Barrett's really embarrassingly bad, to be honest. Maybe he's just not good. 10th on the team in EPM. 10th. Behind Reddish, Rose, Grimes, Toppin, Quickly, Hartenstein, Randall, Robinson, Brunson. He's in the 40th percentile in the NBA. And if you're getting paid almost a max contract and you're a starter playing 35 minutes, holy shit, you need to do a lot more than that. And that's a real worry. OKC. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. 2nd on the team. Didn't expect that. In the 81st percentile in the NBA. Really good solid offensively, solid defensively. Didn't see that coming either. He's a low usage player. He's pushing to be like a 14, 16 team league fantasy guy. But this sort of positive impact is probably why he's getting these consistent minutes. Like third on this team is Dort, then Joe, Kenrich Williams, Trey Mann, then Giddy, Muscala, Omarui, Poku, Wiggins, Baisley, and the Bronco Jalen Williams way down the bottom. Very interesting there. Bol. We know how good he's been and how much of a surprise he's been, but only 37th percentile overall. 9th on the team. And because his defensive metrics are horrific. He's in the 4th percentile, negative 2.4. Offensively, he's basically a neutral. He's 0.1, which is 70th percentile. And his rim finishing is at 100%. His field goal percentage 93. Like all that stuff is really good. But defensively, he's getting cooked. PJ Tucker's in the 36th percentile, really struggling. And we know that defensively is good, but he's such a zero offensively that it's impacting his overall output, and he's 10th on this team. Well, I was really intrigued to see in Phoenix that Cameron Johnson's the second-ranked player on this team. This is not a cumulative status, not based on minutes or anything like that. It's per minute sort of stuff. But Booker at 1, who's way up the top. And then it's Cameron Johnson at +4, while Chris Paul's at +3.5. And Ayton's at 1.7. And Bridges at 1.5. And Bridges usually dominates these metrics. But Johnson's got an astoundingly good defensive metric and a really good offensive metric. And I didn't really expect that. So while he's still out for a few more weeks, and whether you stash him or not, I don't know. His fantasy game's not great, but his importance and impact, he's going to be getting, as soon as he can, they'll be playing him 33 minutes. And they won't be splitting his time with Torrey Craig. The last group of teams I'm going to talk about here, Anthony Simons. Really surprised to see him in the 94th percentile overall in the NBA. Now, he does get a little bit of a boost playing without Lillard, but still being able to do this has been really impressive. He's third on the team behind Lillard and Grant, and he's still not shooting all that well, but that's impressive. Keegan Murray, like most rookies, struggles. 20th percentile overall. 10th on the team behind Chimezie Metu and Trey Lyles and Davion Mitchell and Terrence Davis. It's just been a real struggle both offensively and defensively. I think his back injury is playing a part. Just the adjustment to the NBA. He's going to be better, but he's really not contributing to winning. Keldon Johnson. Lots of opportunities for the horse this season.
Whose horse is that?
But he has not taken advantage of them. He's 4th on the team behind Pirtle, obviously, Vassell, Trey Jones. We know that he's just got rough shooting. 48% field goal is dreadful. And he's 58th percentile in the NBA. He is not handling a number one role. He's not good enough at it. Can't shoot mids. 3-pointers are okay. Doesn't finish at the rim. His assist rate is all right without blowing us away. His rebounding rate is all right. His defensive stat rate is pretty poor. Yeah. Toronto, Chris Boucher, 34th percentile, 9th on the team. And while Boucher has opportunities to put up stats, his impact has always been, well, not always, recently hasn't been as good as it needs to be. And this is poor. He's behind Thad, he's behind Bands, and he's behind Trent. Yeah, Scotty Barnes is 4th on this team, but not as bad as maybe some of his counting stats would suggest. But that's bad for Boucher. Olynyk dominating here, 86th percentile, 3rd on the team behind Conley and Markkanen. But that is just one of the big reasons why they're winning is Kelly Olynyk's a good player and he's getting opportunity to show that. And the thing that really made me laugh is in Washington, the stat that stood out there.
No, Will! No, he's ready to sack that. Run, Will! Give it off quick!
Barton's played almost 500 minutes. He's in the 1st percentile, negative 6.1. His estimated wins added is the 0th percentile. He's almost the most damaging player in the NBA. Negative 1. He's taking wins off the table. It's not easy to do. He can't shoot. He's finishing at the rim at 46%. He can't hit mids. He can't hit threes. He's not rebounding. He's been dreadful. Is he cooked? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, that's that segment. I hope you guys got something out of that. I wanted to fill in this show somehow. Let's look at some waiver wire stuff. Most added player over the last 24 hours. Tim Hardaway. Yep, that's for playing today, playing Saturday, and he played well last game. It's a decent ad. Jalen Noel. We love what he did yesterday. They only play one game, I think, in the next 6 days. It might be 5 days. That's a worry, but the value might be there. Zach Collins is up 22%. It's a great ad. Levert up 13. Not interested really. Markel Fultz up 13. I am intrigued. It might not work out, but I'm intrigued. Dorian Finney-Smith up 11. Schedule stream. Jalen Duren up 10%. Schedule stream as well. While Kyle Anderson up 8%, I think makes a ton of sense. Your most dropped players. Terrence Mann, 14%. Okay, I get it. Thad Young down 10. Yeah, they got a pretty good schedule coming up, so it might have been okay to hold. Caldwell Pope down 8%. No problem with that. DeAndre Hunter down 8, clear drop. Torrey Craig down 7%. Probably would have held. Seth Curry down 7, no problem with that. Avdia down 7, no problem. And Pat Williams down 6%. I think they're both, or all those ones are pretty solid moves on the waiver wire. All right, let's get to the game. You know, it's funny, you did all that stuff on EPM, and I was talking about how Killian Hayes had some really good performances lately, but all his advanced stuff's still pretty bad, so maybe don't skew that. And then he goes out and just actually tears apart Dallas, which we'll get to in a second, but it is pretty... It's pretty interesting to see him be able to put up numbers like that, which again is not, all those numbers prior to today were pretty bad. And then he just went and absolutely dominated in this game against Dallas. We'll talk about that in 1 second. So the Pistons get the win over the Mavericks in overtime after they sold hard at the end of regulation, but somehow they get the win 131-125. Doncic was great. 41 minutes, 35, 5 and 10, 3 steals. 7 triples. Unfortunately, the free throws are a disaster at the moment. He was 2 of 6 there. 52 from the field, and the field goals do remain strong, but that free throw is really having an impact. The Crucifix played 35 minutes. So he got to 30 minutes in regulation, got the 5 OT minutes, 25 and 8, 77% shooting. It's going to be up and down. It's going to be frustrating dealing with Jason Kidd and Christian Wood himself in the rotations. But this is encouraging. It's also massive from Timmy Hardaway. 40 minutes. 26 and 5, 6 threes, 2 steals, and 1 block. Now, the reason he wasn't useful wasn't because he wasn't getting minutes, it's because he was playing terribly and no shots would go in. But the last 3 games have been really good. While the minutes are up, ride it. Let's see what happens. They got to, they play on Saturday as well. Add Hardaway. Let's ride it and see what happens. But understanding he's just in that group of guys who will have hot streaks and cold streaks, and it's a red hot one at the moment. But if you want to look at the other side, Dinwiddie's just shit in the bed. 28 minutes, 2 points on 0 of 2 shooting. No rebounds, no threes, no steals. 6 assists is good, but I think he's going to end up outside the top 100 as we go on from here. This was not a good game. Josh Green, had been playing well, but the minutes weren't there, while Bullock had a slightly better game, and Finney Smith is just a schedule streamer. 6 points for him, 2 triples. Good game from Maxi Kleber. And you know what I say about Maxi Kleber? You're probably going to recite what I say. Threes and blocks. And they haven't really been there this year. But guess what he had today? 2 steals and 4 blocks. That's Maxi Kleber. Maxi Kleber's a better player than Dwight Powell, I think. He played 32 minutes. Let's watch that. He becomes a streamer on these sort of days for those categories in particular. But let's watch that. This is clearly his best performance for the season. If you want to talk best performances for the season, let's talk Detroit. Let's talk Killian Hayes. 33 minutes, 22, 4 and 8. 77% shooting. So this is a great game. He was skewering them on mid-range pull-ups. His passing was great. But don't get it too twisted. Yes, he is a 12-team league player. Absolutely a 12-team league player. He took no free throws. He hit 89% of his 2s and 50% of his 3s and didn't get a single defensive stat here. Now, he is a top 40 player over the last week, so he's a clear must-roster guy. But he won't be like this. As we said, the numbers have been mediocre this season, at best. But this is the sort of game that when I was extraordinarily high on him in the draft and was clearly wrong on that, this is the sort of stuff that I could envisage him doing. Good passing, good defending, with some pull-up shooting ability. And he did all of that in this game. The problem is in the other 150 games that he's played, he hasn't. But he looked great here. I think with Cade likely out for the year, Hayes should get 33 minutes a night. And he's a 12-team league player and should be rostered. Bojan Bogdanovic played 41 minutes, had 30 points, 4 assists, 5 triples, 2 steals. He'd struggled a bit as well. He was outside the top 200 over the last week. But this was a great performance on 71% shooting, of course. And again, Marvin Bagley was good. This was a good game. 34 minutes, 19 and 13 with a 3 on 70% shooting. I was really skeptical of Bagley. I've seen him play for 4 years and be bad in most of that. I've seen him play minutes and be bad for fantasy in categories. Points league is a different story. Right? But this is a different Marvin Bagley than I have seen in the past, and he is playing well, and he is a 12-team league guy. I don't know that he plays 30 minutes a night every night, because there are some nights that he gets benched for Duran, and that happened literally last game. But he looks much better. Jaden Ivey played 35 minutes. Struggled with efficiency, 40 from the field, 50 from the line. That's rough. Came off the bench, but he'll start next game. I don't know what the point of him coming off the bench is, apart from it's Dwayne Casey. 16, 3 and 6 with 2 triples. He does make some poor decisions still, but there's going to be elevated numbers for him with Cade out, while Alf Stewart played 37 minutes. The Flamin' Galah.
Is that you, Mr. Stewart?
Well, who the hell else do you think it'd be? Get in here, you pair of flaming galahs.
9 points on 12 shots is pretty rough, but he had 12 boards. He was okay. He is a 12-team league guy, quite obviously. Alec Burks, 10 and 6 with 2 steals. That's not bad.
Alec Burke.
He's a fringy 12-team guy, probably more 14, but he's okay for 12s. Isaiah Livers started, played 7 minutes. That was starting over Ivy. Obviously, we don't need to roster him. And I tell you, I said this multiple times already. You can jack Sadiq Bey off.
Get that garbage out of here!
He's a better shooter than what we're seeing, but he's not that good. 6 points in 19 minutes, 5 rebounds, 29%. Again, you are playing 19 minutes in an overtime game. Cade's out. Ivy doesn't start. Livers goes after 7 minutes. I might say that Dwayne Case is a bad coach because I'm correct in saying that, but this is not the incorrect move. Bey is not good. Now, has he got more of a future than Marvin Bagley? Maybe. Actually, I don't know. They're actually not that far apart in age. I didn't like the Bey pick when it was made, and then I looked stupid for 2 years. Maybe I'm going to turn out being correct on that one. I don't know. I just think he's bad, and I don't think that he is worth having in a 12-team league, and honestly, I'm not sure he's worth having in a 14-team league. I'd probably be a little bit more reticent to drop him there, but it's pretty rough at the moment. Duran had 11 points, didn't block a shot. Like, again, he's okay. I probably wouldn't bother outside of streaming specialties in a 12-team format because it doesn't appear like he's going to get consistently 25 plus. He'll get it some nights, but he won't get it every night. But congrats to the Pistons for getting the win. Congrats to the performances of the much maligned players, Killian Hayes and Marvin Bagley. 2 guys that have copped shit in many areas. From me or not from me. They both played really well, and the Pistons deserve this victory. Congratulations to them for getting it. Let's look at the lines of the night. The monstrous line of the night. Bojan Bogdanovic. The waiver wire line of the night is Timmy Hardaway. The young gun is Jaden Ivey. And the dud, of course, is the depressed penis. Not doing the top 10 players. Only bloody 20 players played today. So that'll do it for me today. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on Odyssey. And if you're on YouTube, thumb it up, leave your comments down below. All hail Killian Hayes, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.